gonna work on a little bit of chicken fabrication today, breaking a bird, taking it down into its pieces. Honestly, you're better off, as a rule, buying like the bird whole rather than pieces. Bought these today at Costco, $1.17 a pound, which is pretty much their usual price for chicken. Sometimes you'll find them, 97 cents a pound or less, versus paying $3, $4, $5, $6, $7 a pound for like chicken breast. That's silly. And don't even get me started on chicken wings, because that's a joke. Okay? It's just cheaper. Plus that way you're gonna get plenty of it. I'm gonna show you how to get 8 pieces out of the bird, which when cut properly will be perfect for 4 people to be served the same way. So the first thing, take the bird out of the bag, like we've done. If you're buying like retail birds, they are typically still going to have their bits inside of them. So get in there, take out the various bits of gizzard and offal that are inside, things like the neck, the kidneys, etc. Okay, don't leave those in there. They're great for your gravy. They're great for various applications. Roast them up. Have a nice little snack. There'll also usually be a little bit of butt fat down here on the bottom of the bird. Just peel that right off. Don't need it. Okay, we'll get rid of it. All right. Just otherwise check. This guy's still a little bit icy, but that's okay. As far as the knife to use, any of the 3, right? If you got a paring knife and that's all you have, you can use a paring knife. If you got a chef's knife, that's all you have, you can use a chef's knife. If you have a boning knife, cool, that tends to work as well. Use whatever knife you have that's sharp. That's gonna be the important thing. A note on the wishbone before we get started. So up here in the front, okay, in the neck hole, as it were, of the bird, there is a bone that runs just inside the neck, okay? You can feel it if you rub along it. That is the wishbone. There's often a question of, do I need to take the wishbone out when I'm gonna be breaking my birds down? And the answer is, depends, okay? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It tends to take a little bit longer to do, and so sometimes people will leave it in there, but you lose a little bit of meat in the process. Other times people will say, no, I absolutely need to remove it. I'll show you how to remove it, just so you have that. So you take the knife, put it inside, and you just scrape the knife against that bone with the edge of the knife. You hear a little kind of scraping sound, and you'll see that the wishbone starts to get exposed. All right, so here I'm basically got the fingers in, that's where the wishbone is. Okay, that's it right there. It goes all the way up to the front, so we can get in, and we just, let's try to do it from this angle. Scrape it all the way to the top as well. This one might be broken. Sometimes they're broken, it happens. Okay, once you got it exposed, yeah, this one's broken. It broke right up at the top. You just get in there, kind of wheel around. Oh, it's icy. There it is. Pull it out. Yeah, it's a little too icy. I can't get it stuck. So there's part of it.
Oh, you didn't get the wish.
No, I didn't. It broke before I got to it, though. Oh, the last little bit's stuck right in the air. It's like ice in there. I'm not going to be able to feel my fingers here in a second. I'll get the last bit out in a minute. Again, you can see it sometimes can take a little while. That's why we'll typically, if we're going to skip doing the wishbone, doing that. So, the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to show you guys here, is a little trick for doing what's called Frenching your chicken wings. If you've ever seen like what's called the airline breast, where it still has the drumette still attached, sometimes you'll see that bone is exposed to look all nice and pretty after cooking. And usually what you'll see people do is just cut down through the joint and then kind of scrape at it and peel and spend 30, 45 seconds trying to get it. That is unnecessary. Instead, there's the elbow joint. You guys watching? Chris? Okay. Elbow joint, that's his bicep. Just inside of the elbow joint, I'm just gonna make a small little cut. Just a little guy, just right there. Boop. Okay? Just enough to cut through the skin and cut through the little bit of cartilage that's attached to the bone. Then grab the breast with your fingers wrapped around the arm. Okay? Extend the arm out straight. Put your thumb right over the cut. And then I'm just gonna try and put my knuckles of each hand together. Okay? So I'm gonna hyperextend backwards. So I'm gonna pop back, and then I'm gonna pull straight down. In the process, we strip that cartilage cap right off the top of the bone and peel it down, exposing our drumette nice and easily. Okay, so we got that. So we'll do it again on this side, right? So elbow, bicep, little divot in between, just where the divot starts to come back up towards the elbow, little cut, grab the breast, arms behind, straighten it out, pop down, pull down, right off. Okay, there's your two legs, right? So nice clean bone, nice and exposed. All right, next, there's a general rule anytime we're fabricating anything, chicken, beef, pork, lamb, it doesn't matter. We follow the seam and we follow the bone. So I have a seam here, I can see the fat seam, okay? I can see the fat seam. I'm gonna take my knife, angling away from the money, AKA the leg, into the little spot that I know exists here in between. I'm just gonna lightly cut in to cut through the skin of my chicken. Okay, opening up that cavity. Same thing on the other side. Down in, open up the cavity. Put your fingers where the hip connects to the thigh bone. Squeeze one side through, squeeze the other side through. Pop those all the way out. Done properly, you now have your chicken gun. Give people salmonella, okay? It'll now sit nice and flat. You can take the legs off before taking the breast off. We're gonna take the breast off first because the legs help keep everything nice and steady. Right down the center of your chicken, there's what's known as the keel bone, okay? It's the breastbone. We're gonna take our knife, we're gonna put it right on top of that. We're just gonna lightly pull. You'll start to expose that keel bone. Since I've already taken out the wishbone, I can very easily cut right down through. Here's the keel bone right here. See it? That's the keel bone right there. So I'm gonna go on one side or the other. I like to do the left side first. So I cut down along the left side. And we'll just now get in, use the tip of the knife, be very delicate, pulling back with my left hand on the meat to peel it away. And I skim down along the rib cage, following the bone, right? Follow the seam, follow the bone, our basic rule of any kind of butchery. If you don't know what you're doing, if you don't know what the classic cuts are for an animal, if you follow the seam, follow the bone, you will be successful even if you don't have the classic cuts. This right here, chicken tender, okay? It's still attached, we'll leave it attached. We can always take it off, but once you take it off, you can't put it back on. So we're gonna come in, right where the tender attaches up here to the shoulder, there's a little tiny piece of cartilage and tendon. Can you see that right there? Daniel, can you see that right there? Just want to cut right through that, and that'll separate. Now the tendon has released, the tender's loose, and then I'll just get into the shoulder joint up here at the top to separate out with my what's known as airline breast. So that drumette is still on. If you don't take out the wishbone will lead you right to the proper point where the joint is by just trimming along it. It'll take you right down to it. You'll lose a little chunk of meat, but again, right, is it worth it? Is it a problem? Depends on what you're doing and how expensive your chicken was. If your chicken was, $1.17 a pound, may not be a problem. But if you're doing some free-range organic chicken from a specialty farm that was many dollars a pound, get it all, okay? So now we'll do the same thing on the other side. Another rule, do not move yourself to suit the product. Move the product to suit yourself, right? So if I want to turn it around, I'll turn it around. So now I'm just gonna cut down along the other side of that keel bone. Right, so that's the keel bone right there. It's breastbone. Pull back, use the tip of the knife to just gently get in there and expose its way down. Okay. Trimming the meat down as we go. To the shoulder, through the tendon that holds on the tender, into the shoulder joint from above, and then just take that off as well. Okay. So now I got my two breasts, and I'm left with my leg and thigh on the back of the chicken, right here. Okay, that's where the hip joint was. Right above it, there's these two little butt cheek looking things. Okay. Those are the oysters. They are generally considered to be the best part of the bird, right here. We want to make sure we take those out with us. They are held on by a single piece of tendon. That one's hard to see. Single piece of tendon is holding them on. Basically, this fat line will go right down in. If I start to get in here, and I just get through, and I'll feel it when it goes. There it went. Yeah, there it was. There's nothing now holding this guy on for the rest of it. So that's the oyster right there. This little chunk of meat. Get in, go through, cut through, pop through another tendon right there. Once I'm through that, this whole thing will just peel right off. Okay, so again on the other side, just come in from above, cut through, we'll feel the pop when it goes. There it went. Just get in underneath. Just get this guy cleaned out completely. He's all the way out. I'm trying to do this one where I don't get through the hip tendon this time. So right here, piece of tendon holding everything in place. As soon as I cut through that, there it was gone. The rest of this guy just peels right off. Okay. This, grab me a stock pot, Daniel. Goes in your stock pot for making stock. These are cold chickens, as evidenced by the piece of ice. Okay, so now we need to finish cleaning these up. Okay, a couple little things. First thing we can do for our wings, we'll just get in. We'll take the wing tips off. Those go in the stock pot as well. Obviously, Super Bowl is just passed, but otherwise, you're doing this leading up to the Super Bowl for your buffalo wings. Okay. Separating out our leg and thigh portion. Again, we got to know this little fat seam. If I cut at the fat seam, I'm going to hit bone, so I'll just go inside of it, and I'll cut right down through. So I'll get my leg and thigh. Sometimes you'll have excess amounts of skin. If you have too much skin, that's fine, just clean it up. Okay. There's our thigh. Again, fat seam. If you manhandle this, I don't use the term butcher it because butchers are skilled people that know what they're doing, so we'll just say, you manhandle it. You'll sometimes lose that seam and this gets a little bit harder, but as long as you have that seam just inside of it, right down through. Okay. Whoop. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These don't count actually for our 8-piece chicken, they're just extra. Tenders, up to you what you're going to do with them. If we want a bigger breast, we'll leave them on, but maybe we want to control our portion size. So we'll come in, we'll strip those guys off, and just like that, our chicken lost some weight. Okay. We'll also get in, trim up that skin a little bit. If you have big flaps of skin hanging down anywhere, we'll give it a little lift and tuck. Those. Same kind of thing. This guy really just wants to come right off. It's not particularly difficult to remove it. Okay. Otherwise, in, down. Watch for any excess skin. Just make it pretty. It's kind of what we're trying to do. Okay. So I mentioned we could do 8-piece. If I want to do this really nice 8-piece for someone, 8 pieces to serve 4 people for a family, what I'm going to do ultimately is I'm going to try and take my leg and thighs and have them build up to be the same size as my breast. Okay? So what I would do is I would take the bone out of this guy. So I have a boneless piece of dark meat. Cut through the breast here, which we'll be doing for our purposes today. So actually, we'll show you, right? We want kind of roughly the same amount as you go through. So fairly big pieces of white meat, dark meat, white meat and dark meat. Close enough that when you serve it to people, they at least look similar. We can make it even more by Frenching our legs up here as well, although not strictly necessary for what we're going to do. Okay? White meat, White dark. So we got 4 people being served chicken, and then we got some wings and some tenders that we can use to serve the bar. Usually, what's going on there? Okay, guys. So we'll get your cutting board set up. Make sure you got your knives, and then we're gonna cut some chickens up.